From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I am Keith Allen, and we're kicking off For the People on this second day of November 2018. We have Mike Garrett in studio that's going to be chiming along with me, a friend of mine, and he's been on For the People before. We're going to be talking, first up, a couple things we're going to be talking about. And, you know, this show just goes so fast on For the People weekend. But, you know, the two big hot button issues, Mike, as you know, the Pittsburgh Synagogue, which I first got to say, my condolences to the Jewish people, the American Jewish folks. We're all grieving the loss of 11 people, that their lives, the community that Mr. Rogers actually lived in. Good neighborhood, great synagogue, salt of the earth type of people. Hatred did this. And then the border issue. We're going to be talking about that, which is a major issue. We have elections that are in full swing, and, you know, you got to vote. So we're going to be talking about those particular things, weighing in on what the latest is. And there's a lot of hogwash out there in the media. What we try to do is bring some better insights into the news. We don't make the news. We talk about the news, just like you talk about the news, just like you open the newspaper, just like you listen to the radio, and more importantly, have water cooler discussions. I don't pretend to be an expert. What I do try to do, more importantly, is to offer some common sense. And that's really challenging sometimes to find in our world. Mike, have you found that to be true?
Absolutely, Keith.
Common sense.
Common sense, unfortunately, is not too common these days.
No, it isn't. I wish they could give people vitamins, or as they put fluoride in the water. You know, it'd be a nice thing if they could just inject common sense through the water system, because everybody's got to take a shower. So if they could just do that, I think we'd have a better world. But, you know, Friday I left off with For the People last week, and then this massacre happened over the weekend. And I just so badly wanted to be on the air to talk about it, because everybody was consumed, couldn't believe that somebody would come into a synagogue and mow down 11 people during worship. And I'm talking about the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh.
Unfortunately, this is becoming more common. You'll recall a year or so ago, someone went into a Baptist church and started shooting.
Yeah.
And as far I remember in the 60s in Detroit, that someone walked into the synagogue in Southfield and shot the rabbi.
Yeah.
These things happen,
Sad.
but they seem to happen with more frequency and with such a broader spectrum of killing and injuring. This is a sickness that's just getting out of hand.
It's hate is really where this guy was festering, with just pure, unadulterated hatred. That's the only way that you could describe it here. And I was just reading over the 97-year-old that lost his life. He didn't die of natural causes, unfortunately. We're talking about Rose Malager, 97 years old, is going to be laid to rest today after this emotional week-long series, literally, of funerals and memorials, but the last one to be laid to rest today, a 97-year-old.
If you think about that, that means she survived World War II, the Korean War, lived her life, made it to 97.
And got shot.
And gets shot and killed.
In a synagogue.
In her safe place.
And if you listen to the rabbi, he looks like a terrific rabbi. I almost want to become Jewish because of him. He just seems like a sweet man. He says that my place of worship is defiled. It was defiled. how can you go into a house of worship where people are not armed? And that's a whole nother discussion on security, because some synagogues are armed. They have armored guards. Not all synagogues, but, that's a discussion worth having, I think, just because of the escalation worldwide with anti-Semitism. And it does seem to be, as you put it, on the rise, and not just Jewish synagogues, but, other places of worship in, Judeo-Christianity. It's just, the world is not a safe place anymore. It's always had the element of violence since Cain killed Abel in the Bible. It's just, we hear about these incidences so fast in the speed of now with media. We get the news flashes on our phones, we get alerts on our phones, and how we react to these particular things, it's almost like, because these things happen, as it seems like we become desensitized in a way because of its media. It didn't happen in my community, and you want to be sensitive, but it didn't happen in my community, and it happened over there, and you want to say a prayer for them. But imagine your church. Imagine your synagogue. Imagine being there with your children and having that happen. And I really try to address each story that way because, man, with the internet, with technology, it just seems like it's just a bunch of font and there's a story and it's not personal. And these are our brothers and sisters. This could very easily have been a place where we would sit down on a Sunday, and all I'm saying at this point is, one, I'm so sorry that this happened. I'm so sorry that we had to learn that good people, Jewish people, minding their own business, worshiping their God peacefully, somebody full of hate in Florida, of all places. We do the show in Florida, not extreme South Florida, the Miami-Dade area. He was in Plantation, but a strip club DJ driving around with bumper stickers on his van, full of hatred, and to boot, he was on the FBI's radar, spewing off hatred, and I don't know if they ever thought that he was capable of doing something like this. But no, hold on for a second. That guy was I got him confused. The strip club guy, because there was two things kicking off
right at the same time.
At the same time. So that's what I'm talking about. It got me just now. I was having a conversation with my head. I'm talking about the bomber. The guy was.
You're thinking of another crazy individual. That's the mail bomber.
The mail bomber.
Right.
So yeah, this was another gentleman.
Well, that does make the point, though.
It does, doesn't it?
It
Very
does.
Nicely. That was like a teaching moment right there.
There you go. The underlying issue in both of those cases, though, is the lack of any treatment facilities for mental health issues or the inability to recognize severe mental health issues.
Both of them clearly had problems.
Both of them had past records. They had encounters with police. Their family members knew that they needed mental health help, and yet this is what we end up with.
They were on the radar, and that's really an irritating thing. It's just because I think of the enormity, the amount of people in this country, Mike, that are suffering from mental health issues. And a lot of people make a lot of threats, even celebrities. You got De Niro, wanting to punch the president in the face. You want Madonna. She wants to blow up the White House.
And that is instigating. I don't care what you call it. If you put people in authority, whether it's a baseball player, a school teacher, or a movie actor, and they start making these outrageous statements, which, if they walked into an office and made them, they'd be arrested. These are serious charges. You cannot threaten the safety of other people. That is an assault by definition.
Sure.
And they get away with it. They get lauded for it on TV. Look at this. De Niro's going to punch the president in the mouth. There was a thing that happened with Eisenhower.
Somebody needs to punch him in his mouth.
Well, there you go. And someone said about Eisenhower, he should have punched Khrushchev in the mouth.
Well, that bail bomber wanted to bomb him. He was on the radar list there for his actions. And listen, I don't encourage violence. That's not the way to get things done.
No, enforcement of existing laws helps when you see people that are making threats.
Now, that's common sense right there.
Well, but there you go again. How can Madonna say she wants to blow up the White House? If you said you want to blow up the White House,
oh, they would arrest me. I would be in jail.
They'd be at the door before we close the broadcast.
Oh, yeah, that locked door would be mowed down quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But Madonna can get away with it. And so, one smart guy told me, his name was Chuck Harder, and he told me, he says, you know how much justice you can get in this country? And I said, how much? He said, as much as you can afford.
That's always true.
And now look, Madonna, probably a billionaire or close to it. She's just got, a lot of money. Yeah, they didn't lock her up. And yeah, it's freedom of speech, and they weigh in on how they say it and the context if they said it and weighed in on it. But it triggers a hotspot in a person that's mentally unstable, where a person would carry it out, would do it. And, people are inspired by a lot of different things. And speaking of inspiration, Donald Trump is taking a lot of heat on a lot of different issues. One, these bombs were, meant for liberals. And so Donald Trump, with these, big gatherings, across the country, these rallies that he's having, and man, do people come out in the droves, that these sickos, because this, the mail bomber, and I don't want to mention any of these guys by name, even the Synagogue guy, I'm not going to mention by name, because I don't think that they deserve the credence. I agree. Every time that comes up, I might mention their name once or twice, but at the end, they don't deserve airplay. It just was an evil person that did it.
That plays into celebrity building out of people that commit crimes.
Look at who was the notorious killer out there in California that killed all those people back in the 60s?
The Hillside Strangler.
No, not him. The most notorious guy that was in Alcatraz. We're talking in Beverly Hills. He killed all those women and the actresses.
Oh, you're talking Charlie Manson.
Yeah, Charlie. What I'm saying, that's what they did to him.
Oh, of course.
Charlie.
To his death. He was still a quote-unquote celebrity star.
Didn't he get married? All that kind of crazy stuff.
But every time he said something, the media picked it up. Charlie Manson says this.
So I'm not going to use the guys' names, the bomber or the guy in Pittsburgh at the synagogue killed these 11 people. Can't do it. Thankfully for the bomber, and thankfully, none of the bombs went off. Nobody got hurt. The guy was sick. He's going to spend life in prison. Now, the synagogue killer, let's get back to him. Death penalty. Do you think, Mike, that Trump, is he right on? Does this man, if anybody deserves the death penalty, would it be this man?
Well, it's premeditated. It's multi-murders. I don't like the definition hate crime, because to me, if you shoot somebody, you must hate them. I mean, what's wrong with you? But it is a hate crime, clearly. He's screaming epithets, anti-Jew,
he did not like Jewish folks.
And that pretty much fits the pro forma. But in my opinion, if you intentionally go in to kill people, that's a death penalty case.
Right there.
That's it. Okay.
Right. And there's nothing else you can say other than this man, sick. The guy had something inside of him, which I have said this multiple times on many broadcasts through the years, that I just believe that for whatever reason, there are mental health issues and then there's spiritual issues. I think some people have demons in them. I literally, for somebody, another human being, I don't want to get too religious, but seriously, for another human being to carry out something that dark, they must have the spirit of Adolf Hitler inside of them. To do something like that, I can't. And yeah, I'm thinking with a rational brain here and a normal brain. I'm a married guy. I have a family. Family means something to me. People do crack, they snap, but it is a little scary and discerning. We have people walking around capable of doing these heinous acts.